Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Misericordia. Everything that we do, we begin with a prayer. And though we're a community, obviously, of many faiths, we believe that the one God who guides us all guides all of our work here at Misericordia. And so we take a moment as we begin this important time together to acknowledge your presence, God, within our midst. Loving God, over and over again throughout the scriptures, you teach us that we must reach out to those who are wounded, to those who need a special hand, to those who want to have a world in which they can thrive, in which they can do their very best, in which they can know the love of others and the friendship of others. We thank you for all those who are gathered here for this special days together. Everyone in this room, Lord, is trying to serve you in one way or another by reaching out to others. May we be a light to the world that all must reach out to one another. May we reach forward trying to provide the best care possible for those entrusted to each one of us. May each of us in our own way be grateful for your presence in our life, that you help us through the challenges that we face in the work that we do. Please bless these days, bless our speakers, bless all those who have taken time to share their gifts and talents with us these days. Loving God, your blessing is all we need to work, to survive, and to succeed. And so we ask that blessing now as we praise you and thank you, for you are our Lord forever and ever. Amen. Next summer, Sister Rosemary will be celebrating 50 years here at Misericordia. It is indeed my honor and privilege to introduce to you the lady who makes all of this happen, Sister Rosemary Connelly.
I don't know about making all this happen. When I look around and see so many of staff working so hard to make this conference a reality, I think my greatest gift from the time I walked into Misericordia South in 1969 is that the right people have always been there at the right time, and they make me look so good. So I feel so blessed for these 50 years, or almost 50 years, sharing life with some of the most beautiful, wonderful people in the whole world, not only our children and adults, but their families and our staff and thousands of volunteers who believe in Misericordia enough to come involved. Well, right now, I have the privilege and the pleasure of introducing and welcoming the mayor of the city of Chicago. I've known the mayor for quite a few years before he became mayor. And I had an interesting relationship with him. When he was in Congress and when he was the chief of staff for President Obama, every time, you know, he does have a colorful way of expressing himself. So every time I met him, he would say to me, "You scare me, SHITLESS." I've never found out what that really means. But then he became mayor of our great Chicago, a city I love as a native. I love it with all my heart. As the president says, we do have problems, but no one has worked as hard to try to resolve those problems as my dear friend Rahm. He's not going to try for a third term. I'm sure it would have been a difficult political battle. They seem to be getting meaner and meaner every day. But he is retiring from the mayor's office next May. But he has things to do, and I know he will get them accomplished, and no one has accomplished as much for all the people of Chicago as Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Several months ago, I was at a restaurant with a group of people from Misericordia, and my friend came into the restaurant. And he was having a meeting in the back room, and he saw us sitting there, so he came over, and he pointed to the other 9 people at the table and said, "You all may call me Rahm, but this one can't. I have to call him Mayor." But, you know, he's, for the first time and the only time in Chicago, our mayor is Jewish. I'm very used to dealing with Catholic boys taught by his sisters who had great respect for the nuns. So I had a great advantage with them. So I wondered how I would be able to deal with this Jewish boy. Well, I can tell you, he not only has been a wonderful friend of Misericordia, but he is my personal friend, and I'm proud to claim him as one. You know, when you're a mayor and you have the responsibility of a city as the size of Chicago, you have many, many problems, and you have to do things that you don't like to do. And one of the things I know he really didn't want to do, because he not only really cares about Misericordia, but cares about the social service agencies throughout the city. But because of financial difficulties, he had to take away a great gift that we had. Before our dear mayor made a policy, our water was free. Now, we're very clean here at Misericordia, so we use a great deal of water. I asked Kevin, how much was our water bill last year? He told me $250,000.
Oh, please.
Be quiet. So anyway, don't you think it would be a wonderful gesture? He is going to have more time, free time, after he leaves the mayor's office. I think he should volunteer as a fundraiser for Misericordia and cover the expense of the water. So now it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce one of my dearest friends, the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel. Love you too.
Yeah. I had a speech prepared. It was so gracious. You know, I am a Jewish mayor, Rahm Emanuel. And every time I really get down and upset about being raised in a Jewish home by a Jewish mother, I meet a nun. And then we're all graded on a curve. And all of a sudden, Jewish mothers improve dramatically in the score. Oh, don't get so. This is a hard soul, okay? Not so gentle. I've been on the receiving end. Let me say this. My first year, I'm a congressman, 2002, those were the days of earmarks. And that you could do something, and I had a policy, only public entities, et cetera, no private companies. So I thought I did something really nice. I got Misericordia like $400,000. I forgot what we did. We were building something. For the record, I still feel like you owe me $50,000. I'm still ahead, okay? I literally, everybody else, when I got them something, would say, thank you. So I was like, Sister Rosemary, we asked for $1 million. I said, okay, I can only get $500,000. What do you want from my life? So, you know, it's George Bush is the president. I mean, give me a break. Next year, rather than thank you, etc. We have another request. I told the staff, I don't want to talk to her. Just take it down. I'll get it done. I don't want to talk to Sister Rosemary. I really just get the request, write it down, make it at the top of the list. It is easier to just say yes. You know, I grew up so my dad's from Israel and emigrated to the United States in 1959 to practice medicine. 2 days after the '67 war, we go to Israel. And every summer, for 3 summers, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 73, we go to Israel to live. And one of the great things that I love is going in the shuk in Jerusalem. I've done it in Damascus, all over the Mideast. I love negotiating. I love bargaining. Nothing. There is no goat dealer, camel negotiator in the shuk of Damascus that matches this. Right here. I have been all over the Mideast. I have seen them all. Nobody is hard about the price. As you notice, coming here and getting a glass of water is like being a prisoner in Guantanamo. Do you notice any water? I get nothing. Okay? Nothing. I will say one funny thing in my schedule. When we figured out prices had not changed in Chicago for 20 years, and we're replacing 900 miles of antiquated pipes with Sister Rosemary. When I proposed it, where was my speech the next day? Right here. I said, like, who the hell is scheduling me? So, in that effort, I do want to say that everybody in life should have a Sister Rosemary. Everybody should have that one voice always on your shoulder, reminding you how to stay straight on the road to goodness and greatness. And we are a lovely city. I got it. Don't worry. You don't have to hold that up. I'll be quick, okay? We are lucky to have a Sister Rosemary that speaks to the common good and the common soul of all of us in the city of Chicago. That there are those who live in the shadows, those who live on the sidelines, to bring them back into the soul of our city, and to remember that they too have something to give back to the city. And we're forever and forever grateful that Sister Rosemary is here from Chicago. And thank you, Sister Rosemary. And it's only fitting to have this meeting here, not just at Misericordia, but in the city of Chicago. Because just recently in the summer, we as a city celebrated the 50-year anniversary of the Special Olympics, which was founded here in Chicago. The idea that people would not be defined by their disability, but by their abilities to perform and discover themselves. You know, I do mini triathlons, I do sprints. What is that about? It's a test against yourself. You're not professional, but to do something. And what Misericordia, what the Special Olympics do, is not define people by what they can't do, but what they can achieve and then discover about themselves that redefine themselves to the rest of us. And so all of us, whether it's Misericordia, whether it's the Special Olympics, we're also the home of the group called CURE that funds research into epilepsy. It's so important to remind all of us and then to work towards the goal of bringing people that we used to say have a disability, and that became their defining characteristic and their character, to bring them into the mainstream and have them contribute, live, and be part of all of our society. That is the mission of Misericordia. That is your mission. And I'm here to encourage all of you to challenge all of us who live in public life, but don't do this as a full-time part of our life, to think anew, to think fresh, because then we can all collectively be a better society. In a time in which diversity and differences are being used to actually separate us from ourselves, I think it's more important to have organizations and people dedicated to finding our common humanity. The goals here today do exactly that. So I encourage you in your work. I encourage all of you to keep pressing and pushing forward to bring us all together, whether you're Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, Muslim. You know, you're in a city where 140 languages are spoken in our public schools. But every one of those children have a parent who has the same dream, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their faith, regardless of their sexual orientation, or regardless of their language at the home. Every parent has the same aspiration for their child, that they have a better tomorrow than today. Your work is about making sure that all of us include everybody in that mission of our common goal as a humanity. That's the goal of the city of Chicago. When we welcome you to the city, whether your journey was over the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Rio, or the Mississippi, this city welcomes you because your dreams are our dreams. Your children's aspirations are the aspirations that make this a welcoming city to all people, whether they're from immigrants, whether they're people with different views in life or different abilities. They have something to contribute. And if we look at it from that perspective, we'll find the humanity in every individual. Thank you. I look at Sister Rosemary, and my mother goes up like 10 points in stock.
We have another mayor in our presence. Our self-appointed mayor, Mr. Morrissey, is standing at the door there. Can you wave to the people, Terry? I'm going to tell my favorite story about you. Is that all right? You may come up. Okay. My favorite story about Terry, around Misericordia, he's known as Mr. Wonderful. Everyone says, "How are you, Terry?" And he says, "Wonderful." And I've known Terry he's 54 years old, and I met him when he was 4 years old. And he wasn't talking at the time. And now, what are we teaching you to do?
Well, what we're teaching me to do is we're teaching me how to talk, but when to stop.
That is an art. But one of my favorite stories, and I'll start and then you can finish it, okay?
Okay.
We were downtown at a festival, and a little girl, she probably was about 4 years old, and she kept staring at Terry. And I was trying to redirect her with my eyes, but it didn't work. So she finally said to Terry, "Mister, are you handicapped?" And what did you say?
You know, not that I've ever noticed.
Isn't that a wonderful response?
Yeah.
He is truly one of the happiest persons I have ever met. Why are you so happy?
I think I'm happy because God has made me who I truly am. And sometimes if you're happy, then you deserve to be happy. You deserve to have a quality of life and love, and that's what Misericordia is all about.
Okay, well, thank you, Terry. It surely is wonderful to have 30 states represented. What encouraged us to host this conference, and I have these great ideas, and it always means a lot of work for other people, but all our staff seem so happy to welcome you here this morning and for this day and for tomorrow and last night. You know, it is just so wonderful to know that something is happening that's so important. I think we that were there last night were really encouraged by Doug O'Brien. Is he here in the room now? I think he is coming today, though. But he was so hopeful for the change that the government knows they must make. They know they can no longer say there's only one way to serve people with disabilities, and everyone, no matter how disabled they are, belong in isolated houses in the neighborhood. Now, we believe in those isolated houses in the neighborhood. We will have 13 in a few months. 12 are now in operation. The residents in those houses love them. They love them. But they still would be very isolated if they didn't have this campus to complement their lives. Many, many social, recreational, religious, educational opportunities are given to them because they have this campus that they couldn't find in any neighborhood. So that's a very important part of their lives. But already we've had to bring back 4 of the people that lived in those villas because their physical condition changed so radically that we could not appropriately give them the necessary care. One time, a government official came and we went into our skilled nursing home, Macaulay. It's a beautiful skilled nursing home that some of you will see today. We were standing with a person who was totally dependent on the goodness of others, couldn't do anything for themselves. And I said to the government and to the person, now you would never put a person like this in a CILA. And he said, why not? Sure I would. I said, where would you get the doctors and the nurses and the therapists and the trained people to take care of them? We'll get them. And it was a time when they couldn't even pay their bills. But they could do it, which is ridiculous. It's appropriate for some people. We believe in them, but we're so blessed because we have the full continuum of care that I'll talk about later. Misericordia has been a witness to all who know us that we don't believe we're the only way to share life with persons with disabilities, but we certainly believe we're one legitimate way. In 2017, we went to Springfield, the capital of Illinois, and asked the legislators to give us a new license called the Continuum of Care. I don't know how many people have this service throughout the country, but Misericordia is so blessed to have a full continuum of care, from skilled nursing to houses out in the neighborhood and everything in between. This is a blessing, and we went and we wanted to be recognized with a new license. It was a very, very interesting experience. If you have gone to any legislators or your capital in Illinois, when you want to get a new license, you have to appear before the Senate and the House. And before you can go to the full Senate, and the full House, you have to go to subcommittees. Well, for the Senate subcommittee, it was chaired by a senator from Evanston who had just completed a tour at Misericordia. His reaction after the tour was, they don't like you. You should be a model for the country. So he was on the subcommittee as the chairperson. A lawyer from one of the government agencies, government-funded agencies, you can have people speaking pro and cons for this, and they're welcome to do that. So this lawyer from one of the government funding agencies was saying really mean things about Misericordia. And at the end, he said to her, well, do you think Misericordia is a legitimate way to serve people? And she said, absolutely not. They are an antiquated organization that segregates their residents and are setting the field back to the 1900s where they were warehouse people. Well, he just looked at her. It went to the Senate, the full Senate. 51 senators said, give them the license, and no one said no. It went to the House. 110 legislators said give them the license, and 4 said no. We're still trying to get those 4 around. Now this license is in the hands of the federal government, and to recognize it, and you'll hear more about it during the day. When you drive around our beautiful campus and you see all the lovely residential and program and recreation areas, you could wonder, how did this happen in spite of the national trend that there is only one way to serve people with disabilities? And that philosophy has been present since the 70s. In the mid-70s, I attended a conference of one of these government funding agencies. And when they found out that I was from Misericordia, they said to me, "You really don't belong here. You're a person non gratis." I wasn't sure at this point, what did I do that I'm a person non gratis? And it was because they heard that we had moved 39 children to a campus, and the word campus was the negative word that made me a person non gratis. They never knew what was going to follow after moving 39 children here, and now today we have the privilege of sharing life with 600 residents. We had 39 staff there, or 35 staff. Today we have 1,100 staff, and we have 200 in a day program. So this growth happened, and how did it happen? It happened because this experience that occurred to me in 1980, taught me that you cannot accomplish anything if you don't get your political friends involved. They are absolutely necessary, and that's the only reason Misericordia has what we have today, is because of an experience that we had in 1980 that made me realize if you're going to grow, and we wanted to grow, and every time we did grow, it was to meet an unmet need. And that's why I think God has blessed us so generously, because we meet unmet needs as we grow and expand. But in 1980, when we came up here in 76 with 39 children and 35 staff, we used all our finances to renovate 2 of these large buildings for 2 dormitories, a learning center for children. It was all children, no adults. So, and a recreation room and a prayer room. And that was Misericordia North, in one of these very old buildings. But in 1980, we were left $1.9 million by a Mr. Edwin Kennedy, not of the Kennedy family, a person from one of the suburbs here. 4 nieces contested it. It was in court, and it made 18% for 4 years. So see how God works with us. But anyway, so we had money, and we built the 9 beautiful village homes that are still in existence. And when you drive around the campus, they can point out the village homes. We built 9, and we built them for children. There was no restriction for serving children in cluster homes. But when we got the applications, for every 1 application for a child, we received 12 applications for adults. So I said to Mary Pat, who was in charge of the residential program, I said, you know, the need is for adults. We should give 4 of the houses to children and 5 to adults. She said, you'll never get them licensed. I said, why won't we get them licensed? Because there's a policy that no house can be close together of 300 feet. They had to be 300 feet, and these 9 houses were clustered. I said, Mary Pat, with the need that's out there, with our good reputation, "You're going to tell me they won't license it?" She said, "No, they won't." I said, "I don't believe it." Well, it was the hardest year of my life. Every agency head came out, "Oh, these homes are beautiful, beautiful. Oh, yeah, we love them." I said, "Well, license them then." "Oh, no, we're never going to license them." And I thought, 9 beautiful homes, the need's so great, and they won't license them. Then we got 2 of our friends that were politically connected to get involved. And one Sunday, they brought 20 legislators out here for an open house. The legislators couldn't believe that they wouldn't license the homes. And they said, "We're calling a meeting next Tuesday." They called the meeting. The agency heads were furious. They said, "No, this is a policy that can't be changed." And they said, "You change it." And on Thursday, we got the license. But they were very, very angry at us. They said, "Well, we don't care. They have to go off the campus to a workshop." We had 8 people in each house, and 3 or 4 others were living as a community together. I lived in one of the houses, and I felt like I was the mayor of a discontented village. They kept knocking on my door after going to the workshop, that they were paying $30 for transportation and $1,000 for the workshop monthly. But they didn't care. They were off the campus. And all they did when they came home, they would say, "They gave us coloring books. We had nothing to do." But they went off the campus, and that was the big successful achievement. They went off the campus. So we have fought this over the years, and it hasn't been easy. In 1990, our parent group wanted to join one of the agencies funded by the government, and they told them, "No, your philosophy is too different. You can't be a member of this organization." But I can't stress enough the importance of getting your state and federal politicians to know you, to know your agencies, to really, our parents and our families and our staff work so hard. And you know, here in Illinois, every 2 years, the House changes. The House changes. So new people are constantly coming and going. But it's important that they know your agency, that you let them see what you're doing, that you get involved with them, and it's a very healthy relationship for them and for any agency that does that. I can't stress enough how important it is to get your state and federal politicians who are making the policies out to your agencies. I do believe one reason we have been so successful is that we have the best family organization in the country. Now, if anyone here wants to challenge that, I'd be glad to hear it. But I do feel that our family organization and now our sibling organization are 2 of our strongest resources. There are public relations people. They talk about Misericordia. They share their families and their friends with us. We are so blessed with our family organization. And if they don't believe your agency is right, why should anyone else? I was shocked when we had a gathering a couple years ago how few agencies have a family organization. To me, it's one of the greatest strengths of Misericordia, and we're rewarded in so many different ways that they are so much part of us. Our whole philosophy is we don't take your child from you, we share your child with you, and our families love that. 20% of our population have no families or come from extreme poverty, and that's part of our mission too, and it's an important part of our mission. We don't depend solely on the government funding, but we still depend too much. But every year, we have to raise a deficit, the difference between what the government pays us and what it costs to operate, we have to raise $18 million a year. We work very, very hard at fundraising. I'm watching my time. How am I doing? Who's?
About 9 minutes.
How much?
About 10 minutes.
About 10 minutes, okay. Well, we have, goals here at Misericordia. And the first goal we have is to provide quality life for our children and adults. We feel they not only have a right to life, but to one worth living. And we feel that this is such an important goal, because if we ever became mediocre, I would rather close our doors than function in a way that the children and adults don't deserve. Another thing we give very generously is to our families. We give them peace of mind. They know we're a human organization and things can happen here just like accidents happen in their own homes. But what they know also is that if something happens here that's out of the ordinary, they will be told about it and informed about it immediately. The parents are people that we really feel share our ministry. Once a child is born with disabilities, a parent begins worrying who's going to be there for them when they no longer can be here. Just several years ago, we recognized that we had an aging population. We worried about going ahead and doing anything for them. But then Marie Quinlan, who was a member of our Women's Board, gave us $8 million for the aging, and now we have the Quinlan Terrace. And that Quinlan Terrace enables us to say to families, unless something very unusual happens, that we can walk this journey with you until God calls them home. That's a wonderful gift that we can give to families. The peace of mind, and our families deserve it. We have a wonderful, competent staff. They're compassionate. In days gone by, I accepted the definition of compassion as a relationship between the healers and the wounded. If that was true, we would be the healers and our children and adults would be the wounded. But aren't we all wounded in some way or other? We're all wounded. So I like this new definition that I heard of compassion, a relationship between equals. We at Misericordia know that we get back so much more than what we give to our children and adults. They teach us so much about living life on God's terms. Their simplicity, their spontaneity, their love. They can love and they can be loved. And that is such a gift. That is such a gift. I said, how many people have worked in a situation or shared life in a situation that I have? That every single day, someone hugs me, someone tells me they love me, someone makes me feel like, oh my, I'm important to them. That is such a gift. And they do it so spontaneously and so beautifully. And we are just so blessed to be sharing life with God's most vulnerable people. And they teach you so much about living life on God's terms. They had no expectations except what is theirs. They don't worry much. Well, they don't have to. Everyone else does the worrying. But they are just beautiful, beautiful people. And the staff is wonderful. This idea now, in June, in Chicago, the minimum wage is raising to $15 an hour. You got to tell me when I have to stop, all right?
5 more minutes.
Okay. Does anyone have any? And we share our ministry. That's something that we do very beautifully, is share our ministry with thousands of people. I think there's a hunger in our society today that people want to get involved with something bigger than themselves, outside of themselves, and thanks be to God, thousands have found their way to Misericordia and want to be involved and help us raise money and help in so many different ways besides raising money. Our volunteers are co-ministers with us, the staff, and we're so blessed to be able to share our ministry with these very wonderful, wonderful people. So sharing our ministry is very, very important to us at Misericordia. Now, a few minutes. Anyone have a question or comment or anything? Well, then I'll end by thanking the people that made this conference so beautiful and so successful. You know, if any one of you want to sponsor a future conference, we would be very happy to help you do it, but you do it. No, it has taken a great deal of work, and everyone has been there, but the two people that have really worked hard on it is Gina Connelly and her assistant, Jonathan Neindorf. I think they've done an outstanding task in accomplishing what they have, and I hope today and tomorrow will be fruitful for all of you. But they know that the great team at Misericordia, the executive team, the administrators, the directors, the staff, they're all out here. They were here this morning at 7 o'clock, and they'll be here all day, and they'll be here this evening when we celebrate at dinner. So we have a wonderful, generous staff. We have a wonderful, generous Misericordia family, and we are so very, very blessed. I want to thank the directors, the board of directors of Together for Choice, but in a very, very special way, Scott Mendel, the president of, stand up, Scott. Scott is a great lawyer. He's made a very huge mistake. I think he thinks this. We were having an administration meeting. He knocked on the door. He said, "You know, I'm retired if you need any help." That was not wise. He's a full-time worker at Misericordia now as a volunteer, and we couldn't have a more competent and able person as Scott Mendel. So how blessed we are. Thank you for coming. Lovely to share our beautiful home with you. We thank God for all the gifts that are ours, and we thank God that you are all involved in such a special, special ministry. Thank you.